And what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It is your boy, Cheap Ludes. Over the course of the next couple weeks, we're not only going to get news about 2K23, my team, which should arrive tomorrow, I believe, but we're going to be seeing a lot of news about 2K23 in general. Now, information actually came out, not necessarily in relation to 2K23, but in relation to rights as a whole. That 2K could actually use. And that came out all the way back on July 15th, but it's just starting to kind of pick up traction now as the game kind of nears, right? So over the last decade, I would say farther than that, I don't know if Charles Barkley's ever been in a 2K outside of 2K17 for the 25th anniversary of the Dream Team, where they were allowed to use his rights. Reggie Miller hasn't been in one for sure since, I believe, 2K5 or 2K6. I want to say 2K5, but he could have been in 2K6. I don't remember. So it's been a long time, since we've seen either of these guys in 2K or ever at all. You know what I mean? Like, Reggie Miller was in 2K5, but a lot of people probably didn't play 2K5. I was still on NBA Live. I mean, I have 2K5 on my bookshelf back there, but I barely played it. I was more of an NBA Live guy at the time, right? And 2K17, I remember when Barkley came out, but it was expensive to get Barkley at the time, so, it is what it is. So, Barkley has asked for years, same with Reggie Miller, is they wanted 2K to essentially donate a certain amount of money to a retirement fund for players, right? If you're going to use their likenesses, they need to be paid for it, is essentially what Barkley and Miller were on. Same with Rasheed Wallace, actually. He doesn't really get the credit that these two guys get for some reason, though. It's kind of weird. I don't understand what that's all about, but whatever. It's besides the point. Rasheed is cooler than Reggie Miller and Charles Barkley. I stand firm on that, but they've used their platform to try to raise awareness for the fact that 2K essentially doesn't really pay anything to use the licensing. They just pay the NBA to use the NBA licensing, if that makes sense, but they don't actually pay the players, really, okay? So when you see a player in NBA 2K, they're not being paid to be there. Their being there does help them financially in some way, shape, or form, I guess, like through merchandising or something. I mean, that's kind of 2K's go-to move, is like, oh yeah, we're helping spread awareness or whatever, but like financially it doesn't do anything for them. Now this could change, and the reason being is the NBA actually approved a new, I want to say, retirement package, but it is what it is. They announced a $24.5 million, which is nothing to the NBA, by the way. Like, it sounds like a lot of money because we're all poor, but that's nothing to the NBA. To pay former ABA players to help them get a decent life. So if you played a certain amount of ABA games, you're now being paid by the NBA the same way former NBA players are being paid, right? Which they've never done before, which is kind of messed up in the grand scheme of things. But now the thinking is that 2K is going to follow suit, right? They're going to follow suit and also pay some money to, get some of these legends in the game and financially compensate them for reasons. You know what I mean? One of the bigger things that you notice a lot of times is outside of the very large named guys, typically when it comes to 2K putting out packable content that makes them money, you typically don't see a lot of older guys in there. Especially guys who played, down in the ABA times and the early NBA times. Reason being is twofold. One, it keeps them out of hot water because they're not actually paying those guys anything. So they're generating a profit off names that, really aren't fair to a certain extent, but also because they don't sell packs, because no 16-year-old is going to get really stoked to go open packs for Bob Nedelicki, you know what I mean? Or even larger names like George Gervin or Julius Irving, which those guys are definitely in packs, but they're never like the front seller of the packs, you know what I mean? Either way, this hinges heavily on 2K wanting to spend the money, right? Because all these articles say the same thing. It could also mean that 2K might pay some amount to retired players as well. That guarantees absolutely nothing, dude. If we learn anything about 2K, if there's ways that they're going to go around paying money, they're going to do it, right? So banking on them paying a certain amount of money to get this done is going to be hard. Now, there are certain things that this does change that I feel like people aren't bringing up, right? Like, is Barkley and is Reggie Miller and Rasheed Wallace and guys who have been kind of outspoken against 2K not paying players specifically, are they going to end up in the game because of this? Unless 2K drops the money, which, by the way, $24 million, once again, to 2K is being nothing. Like, they're going to make so much more than that in the first quarter that the game is out off microtransactions. So it's like, which is bad, but if it means that they can pay players, good, but they won't, so it doesn't really matter, I guess. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe they'll surprise me. Maybe they'll spend the money. Maybe we'll get Charles Barkley and Reggie Miller. I don't believe that's going to happen, but it's possible. Now, what that does mean, though, is they have access to guys who were only in the NBA that weren't in the NBA, which they did not have access to before. Outside of, I believe there was a loophole where if they played for a team that was absorbed, you were able to use them, like Bob Nedelicki, for example. But there's guys who have never made it into a 2K, which will probably end up as like triple threat offline rewards and stuff, so it's not going to be too crazy. But it's possible that we see some kind of new faces in 2K. Austin Robbins, he was fire. Look at this man. You know he can hoop, dude. He played for a bunch of teams, none of which were added to the NBA, like the San Diego Conquistadors, which is a really sick team. I think the ABA was tighter than the NBA, personally. I wish it would have been the opposite. First off, the ball. Number one, the ball. Obviously, it's an iconic ball that they need to bring back for games. Anyways, Austin Robbins could be very Bob Nedelicki-like. He's like a 6'8" stretch four. Like, I mean, he could be good. Whatever. He's not really the craziest. Daryl Carrier. Like, he played for the Kentucky Colonels. Look at this white guy, dude. Look at this man hooping right here. He could end up in the game. I mean, whatever, dude. He played. He's a 3-time All-Star, so he's tight. Swen Nader's already been in the game because he played for the Spurs, obviously. Larry Kanon's been in the game. Brian Taylor has never been in the game. He could have been. They just didn't want to put him in, so it's like whatever. Ron Boone's been up in here. Billy Paulitz. I have no idea who this guy is, but apparently he was raw. I don't know. He's got one knee brace on. Hooping at Adidas Superstar, so you already know. Look, are any of these guys going to excite you? And be, yes, dude, I'm so stoked to play 2K23 in my team because I get to hoop with Warren Jabali. No, not necessarily, but 2K has a history with taking these random guys throughout history and turning them into demigods, so it's possible. Like, more guys with afros, I'm always down for that, for sure. The Floridians, by the way, is just such a sick team because it's not even like the Tampa Bay Floridians. It's just the Floridians, like straight up. Louis Dampier, my boy. Hell yeah. James Silas, my boy. Larry Jones, most generic name of all time, but he played for the Floridians. And the Denver Rockets, dude. It's just funny that it's Denver, you know? ABA is cool, man. For sure. Willie Wise. Like, there's a lot of guys who never made the jump to the NBA that we could be seeing for the first time in 2K, period. Which I think is kind of cool. But at the same time, are any of these guys going to really move the needle? No. I mean, unless 2K dukes them out. But there's a whole list of guys who aren't in 2K. Players are in 2K that are not in 2K. Stupid. There we go. So we got the missing player list right here. Charles Barkley, Reggie Miller, Ron Artest. Once again, Ron Artest isn't in 2K, and I don't know why. I don't think he's specifically protesting anything that 2K does. He's just not in there, and I'm not really sure what's up with that. Same with Tayshaun Prince. I don't know the backstory as to why he's not in 2K. He would be phenomenal if they were to add him to my team. I don't know why they don't, but he's not on the all-time Pistons team, so there has to be something to do with rights in there. Rasheed Wallace, obviously. Albert Robertson will never see the light of day in 2K, just because of the fake allegations that were brought upon him, which are really messed up. They could bring back Mehmet Okur, who's never been in, any games after he retired. Michael Oluwakonde, please. We've seen a lot of these guys enter 2K. Like Chris Anderson, I don't believe was in 2Ks after he retired up until this year. It might have been this year, honestly, which is pretty cool. We haven't seen Raja Bell in a few years. Andres Biedrins hasn't been in there at all. We've seen Shannon Brown get added. No one cares about Andre Blatch, his trifling ways. Andrew Bynum hasn't been in 2K either, which I think is kind of weird. That is strange. We saw Mike Dunleavy added this year. Nobody represents my boy Jason Capono for some reason. Troy Murphy hasn't been in here. Sasha hasn't been in here. Petrus, like, none of these guys are big names, but they're guys that, it would be nice to see every once in a while. It really would. But Barkley and Reggie Miller are obviously the two big names here. Will we see them in 2K this year? I feel like we'll find out this week, because if we see the My Team blog and they don't specifically advertise Barkley and Reggie Miller being in the game, I feel like it's a pretty sure shot that they're not going to be there. But it's still worth talking about, because this could allow 2K to access a whole new roster of players they haven't had access to. But being how they handled the amount of players who got cards this year, I don't have a whole lot of hope that they'll do anything really cool with any of these new ABA additions, but you know, only time will tell. As always, has been your boy Cheap Ludes, and you know I'll catch you tomorrow when the vlog drops. Pretty stoked. Peace.